Welcome back to this day. The United Laguna Woods Mutual Board recently met on the 11th, and we have some good information to share with everybody. And helping us do that is Ellen Leonard and Georgiana Willis. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So Ellen, let's start with you. What do you want to start off with in terms of the highlights and some of the things that are going on at the meeting?
Okay, well, I'd like to talk about the town hall we had. We had a town hall last Friday, and we had an excellent turnout. We were focusing on the treasurer was there and speaking about building our reserves, and we talked about the landscape and the requirements of an Assembly Bill 1572 that that the Sacramento requires, and that is we digging up our lawns for ground cover because we and United are watering our grass with drinking water. And yeah, so that is a big, we can't get recycled water there. So it's unfortunate. We're trying to make alternate plans, but we don't know how it'll work. We also had a call for candidates because United is a corporation and we are shareholders in the corporation, and it is our responsibility to serve the corporation. And we're looking for people to put in some time.
All right, the elections are coming up. I think you have the deadline to turn them in as the end of this month, I believe.
It's June 27th.
27th, okay, So get those candidate documents in and get on the board there, get those elections. So what were some of the things we want to talk about from the meeting? What do you guys think were some of the highlights?
Well, I think Ellen gave sort of a good overview from the town hall. But also something I would like to mention is our president, Allison Bach, sends out a newsletter twice a month. And in it she had part of a survey, and I think the last one had 19 questions in it, and we got a good response back. And so the next one that's going out in the next week or two we'll have the rest of the questions, and they're quick answer things, but it sort of helps us, shows us where you're coming from and helps us with our decision making.
Yeah, so with the town halls and those questionnaires kind of gives you a bigger picture of what the residents of the community are really concerned with and want to be focused on?
Yes.
Okay.
We're trying to communicate
Absolutely.
the best way we can.
And you had some new business you had going on in the meetings that you maybe want to recap a little bit, and in terms of some of the standards for the patios and solariums and garden rooms.
Well, I'm on the architectural committee, and we call it the ASCS. It's Architectural and Standards Committee. And we have I'll let Georgiana do the 90-day, but we had revised the financial qualifications. So many people will buy in third and in United at the same time. So we're going to require another verification of $250,000 in the bank if you're going to own 2 properties. If you're going to own 3, it's $375,000.
So $125,000
per unit.
Okay.
Yeah, verification of funds in the bank. So that one is completed. There's no more 28-day response. So that is completed. That is a policy now.
Okay, terrific. And that reserves just makes sure people, if they're going to start a project, they can finish the project, right? We don't leave it half done somewhere.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Those can be challenging things.
And also, we had a motion to have a 90-day ad hoc committee to research sources of income or sources of revenue for United. And so we'll be checking that out as well. Because we do have facilities here, things like that, that we could maybe use to increase revenue.
Okay, so just coming up with some ideas of other ways to generate revenue besides raising fees for the members.
Exactly.
Correct.
Besides raising that assessment.
Yes, and we have so many people here from varied backgrounds, so good resources.
Yes,
absolutely.
Give us ideas. It'll be an ad hoc, meaning everybody, it'll be open to the community to come and apply for that, to do that 90-day. It'll be interesting.
Okay, and some of the other things you guys talked about a little bit was governing documents that you guys were reviewing for your charter and things like that.
Yes. Yes, we're doing all the charters for maintenance and construction and governing docks and ASCS. So we're doing them all, updating them and doing it one at a time. Otherwise it gets, we had 5 policies, 5 changes that came in just from the June 11th board meeting. So yeah, so that's a lot, 5 of them.
Absolutely. So when you guys are making these changes, I mean, they're just kind of these documents, these rules, these regulations. They're kind of living, breathing documents, right? In terms of like as times change, as for instance,
Yes.
how much you're going to have people set aside.
Yeah.
Time change, the realities of living in these communities change. These documents need to be
Yeah.
reviewed and visited, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and some of them were written in a very legalese manner, and now we're updating them, and they're easier to understand, I think.
Okay. And so what are some of the things in terms of approved, in terms of the financial qualifications policy? That's another one you guys kind of hit on there.
Well, that was the $125,000
Oh, so that's the,
in your bank account per property. It's $40,000 income a year. This is for United. And you have to have, what was the other qualification? The 125, and that's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's subleasing and resales. Is that an issue that goes on in the community where a lot of folks maybe have a place but then sublease it out? And
Yeah.
then we're talking about ID cards for people to get in the gates and all sorts of
Yes.
things that kind of happen.
I don't want to give the bad news, but we're all leasers. So even when you own, you lease from United. And so if you lease it to another person, it's a sublease.
Right.
I learned that, and I go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I never thought of it like a sublease, but I had a friend who is out of the country a lot of the time, and so I would handle her rental. Yeah.
And she's a sublease too? I mean, if she rents it?
Well, she would rent it out.
When you guys got into this being board members, did you realize the depth and the complication that it kind of goes into managing these residences and this community?
Well, yes and no. Georgiana and I ran on a slate, and she got on and I didn't. And we were working the governance a little bit before, going to meetings and informing ourselves. But no, it gets really involved when you start doing these resolutions and the 28 days and understanding all of it. But it is a learning process. It takes a while. Georgiana knows it all now.
Are you the expert, Georgiana?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's sort of complicated, really. Especially, I guess, when you have 4 boards, or how many do we have? 4 or 5?
3?
Well, there's
Multiple
United.
boards, and there's GRF.
VMS, yeah.
VMS.
So VMS has one and everything. But the committees are really important. They are the foundation of the entire governance.
Yeah, that's really important, because if members go to the meetings, they're going to have more input. In other words, by the time something comes to the board, all those decisions have been made.
All the minutiae is kind of taken care of in the
Yeah, and
committee
it's a
work.
rubber stamp.
Yeah,
you know?
it's either within the regulations that we already have, or it isn't. But the committees are where those things are being discussed, and that's good to go and put your input.
Yeah.
Well, there
Give
you
your
go.
input, right.
Ellen, Georgiana, thank you so much for joining us today, talking about Mutual and with the update. We appreciate you guys
Thank
coming in.
I would just like to say one thing, that
Sure.
if anyone is interested in running, and reiterate the date as June 27th at 5 for getting your application in.
Come down here to the community center and
Yes.
pick up that application.
Yes.
Make sure
Yes.
you get it in.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for being here today.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll be talking to folks from the Village Music Club. Stay with us.